Hello, everybody. It's Cody again. And today I wanted to talk about burnout and also the grieving process of, what if somebody spotted my ADHD earlier or my autism earlier? Because I am ADHD. Um, and that's the biggest thing. When I got diagnosed, it's like I went through that grieving process of the what ifs. You know, I would have done better. Maybe I would have paid attention better because I struggled big time in paying attention. I was always distracted. And truthfully, I somehow still passed. I have no idea how I graduated high school. But, the what ifs, like, how did nobody notice it? Like, I struggle more with the inattentive ADHD. And I think from back in the 90s, they were mostly looking for the hyperactive ADHD, the little boys that are not paying attention and running around and causing trouble. And I was not like that. I do have combined type ADHD that's inattentive and hyperactive, but on the hyperactive side, I'm more impulsive and I overshare, stuff like that. Um, what else in hyperactive? I forgot but yeah, I don't know. But I lean more towards the inattentive side. I'm, more calm, but chaotic in the brain. And, I just wish they would have seen this then. The inattentive side, because maybe I could have got put on because this medication really helps me focus on one thing at a time. It helps me want to focus, and that's what I love about it. And if I was a kid and I could have gotten the help and the accommodations I needed, I wouldn't have struggled so much all the way up till high school. And high school, I graduated straight A's, and I have no idea how I did that. I have to thank my stepmother for that. She really pushed me and helped me and got me wanting to do it. But it was a struggle, and I did it, and I owe a lot of thanks to her. But all the way up till adulthood, and just 10 months ago, I'm 32, and just 10 months ago is when I learned about neurodivergence and what I am. I got diagnosed and I started going on a learning spree. It became my special interest that I wanted to learn everything, squeeze all bit of information out on neurodivergence. And I learned a lot about autistic burnout, that it can go into long-term burnout. And I found out that is what I have. 7 years ago is when it started. I was out of work for a couple of years after that job because I could not work anymore. It was so bad. So I was out of work for 2 years. But then I went back to another job and I made it part time, only 4 days a week, 6 hours a day. I thought that would be fine. But I was requiring more and more breaks because I also have a very messed up back. Can't stand or walk too long. So I was taking multiple breaks. I even gave them a note and they still complained, treated me like dirt. They treated me differently because I'm always a different person. I don't act like the normal people, and they always treated me different. And being in burnout, it's hard for me to do the masking, the performance. So sometimes I'm just myself, and they make fun of me behind my back, talk shit. I know this because I had some true friends there that told me about this. What comes around goes around. So I left that job and I went to another job, McDonald's actually. And these guys were great. They worked with me. I told them I only wanted like 4 days, 6 hours a day, which I shouldn't have done that because when I left the other job, I couldn't do that. They were putting me 4 hours a day, 2 days a week because I had a hard time standing. I was always burnt out. Like this burnout really messes with me. I'm constantly exhausted, dizzy, headaches, all this stuff. The headaches, the sickness all the time, um, skill regression, all this stuff, and it just hit me all at once. I thought it was just me being lazy and weak all the time. But then I go to McDonald's, and they realized that 6 hours was too much for me, so they put me 3 days a week, 4 hours a day, and I was able to do that. But even that would wear me out so much that when I got home, I had to just rest. Sometimes I had to call in the next days, and they accepted that. They knew I had problems, so they never treated me dirt or said if you call in too many times, because they knew I had a severe back, and because I usually blamed it on that, but a lot of it was burnout too. Um, so when I called in, they told me to hold on, they told me to call in if I'm having a bad day. Do not come in because we'll just send you home. So we understand, we won't write you up, and they've been great. But the last 2 weeks, I was so bad that I was calling in almost every day, and then the very last week, I came in one day, and they sent me home about an hour early. I made it 3 hours, and I went home. And then the next day, I woke up. I was feeling so bad, dizzy, just messed up, that I called in and I went to let my family know. I was like, I can't do this. I just can't. I'm not feeling great. Back so bad that I can't even do an hour. And so I did a leave of absence. And sorry, I'm going blank here. Fuck. Stupid ADHD. What's that?
You get a leave of absence.
Yes, I did a leave of absence for 6 months, all the way till the end of December. By the time that came, I was no better, and it was taking a long time to have my back looked at. And I messaged my boss and says, "What's going on? I need to extend it." And she was so nice. She was like, "Okay, she says, we can do that, but it'll take meetings that we got to do and all this, and you already have a schedule that you would have to come in, all this." She says, "But we got to get people from HR to come in, and it could take a couple weeks." She says, "But we can do that." But she says, what the easy way is just reapply. Basically, I would no longer be working there and just reapply. I would call her after reapplying, let her know I applied. She'd get me in right away. She says, "Thank you for working with us. You're an amazing person. Get better." And that was 3 years ago. I've basically come to the terms that I can't work.
2 years ago.
No, it's 3 years. We're pushing 3 years. In this summer, it'll be 3 years.
Huh.
It'll be 3 years this summer. So, um, I've come to terms that now I can't work because of the burnout. But I got a lot of mental problems. I got constant dizzy spells. Also, my back is unfixable. I talked to a surgeon, and my back is unfixable. He says the best you could do is just learn to live with it. Do certain exercises. He says there's ways to learn how to deal with it, and he says, but you're gonna be stuck with this, and when you get older, it's gonna get worse. He says, but I already do take painkillers. I'm not out of control with them. Don't worry about that. I take them as I should, and only when I need them. So I'm careful on that. But yeah, I've been out of work, and I'm currently trying on disability, and it's taken a long process, to do that. I can't walk for more than 20 to 30 minutes. Same thing with standing. On a good day. On a bad day, 5-10 minutes is too much for me. That's how messed up I am. I'm just so messed up. And the burnout's gotten so bad, I have just really bad dizzy spells. I get sick back to back, sick then better, sick then better, sick then better. Get migraines off and on, and I can't drive a car anymore because skill regression, It's even difficult just to go take a shower. Like, I know that sounds bad, and I do shower, but not on a normal basis like I should. It's just difficult. Everything that used to be easy for me is like an uphill battle or like pushing lead uphill. It's not easy. It's difficult. And I'm going through all this. I have been for 7 years. Going back to work just made it so much worse. So after McDonald's, I was at my worst, so, and, I, ever since I was diagnosed 10 months ago, it's just, what if, what if I found it earlier? I could have got the medication. I could have been accommodated. They could have made it easier for me. They could have, I could have rested when I need to. I could have learned to not mask, just to be myself. and not to people please. I still do that. Just they could have taught me all this stuff and to rest when I needed to because I did not. I overdid myself, masking, people pleasing constantly, that it put me in long term, maybe permanent burnout. Because it's been 7 years like this and it hasn't gotten any better. It's gotten worse. And it's so bad. It's just so bad, you know. And what if I could have caught it? If I wouldn't be in burnout now, if I would have caught it earlier. That's the thing that goes through your mind when I'm first diagnosed. Is I think it's called the grieving process of what if, and yeah, it's just I would get burnout throughout my life, in school, in other jobs, in school I would get burned out so bad. Lots of times I would take a day or two, but lots of times I also needed more than that. And I just chalked it off to me being sick, because that's how bad burnout feels when you're neurodivergent, is you feel sick, so sick, that it's just so bad, and yeah, so I always chalked it off as that. And many times I also pushed through it. I would push through it and thinking, because a lot of people say when you're sick, just go to work. It'll make you feel better. It never did me. I tried to, and I've done it, but it always made me feel worse. So I ended up having to take a day or two or a week if I needed, and that was through school. And then work started. I overdid myself at work. Sometimes I'd take a day or two, when I needed, but I really pushed myself. I was masking constantly, um, all that stuff. I was putting on performance. I was always wanting to people please people, just be the perfect person they wanted. That's what I want. Everybody loved me too because I was nice and always helped. And it was actually exhausting me. And I did it so much throughout the years from high school or from junior high all the way up until a few 7 years ago when I first entered it. And now it's worse. I can't even work, can't even drive. It's struggle to do anything around the house. It really sucks. So a message to all you out there who are not in long-term burnout: rest when you need to. Stop masking, or do your best to slowly stop masking. Try to stop people pleasing, and it should help you. Rest when you need to. Don't push yourself because it'll make it worse. Um, but that's it, you guys. Thank you. I just wanted to rant about this. Just talk about it. About my life experience, and maybe some of you can relate out there. And maybe take what I've talked about and do better than I did. From my experience. So, thank you guys. You guys have a great day.